My name is Karen Lee Pollock, and I assist employers in auditing their I-9 forms and in ensuring they have an adequate I-9 compliance program on file. The I-9 on its face seems like a pretty simple form, but it is one of the most common forms where mistakes are made. I wanted to provide you some tips today on completing the I-9 form. As most employers know, every employee in the United States is required to complete an I-9 form. Part of the form is completed by the employer, and part of the form is completed by the employee. There are a list of documents that the employee can provide to the employer listed on the back of the documents. Some of those documents list work authorization documents that are required, and the others list identity document. The employer must fill in the bottom part of the form by day 3 of when the employee starts work. The employee must fill in the form on day 1. The I-9s should not be kept in the employee's personal files. Also, the company should have a consistent policy on keeping I-9s. Where are they going to be kept? Especially if the employer has multiple offices in multiple states. There should be one central location for keeping the I-9s. Whether the company decides to keep all I-9s nationwide at one place, or if each company office is responsible for keeping their own. Whichever you decide, it should be a consistent policy across the board. I-9s should be kept in a binder or electronically, separate, as I said, from employee files, and they should also be divided by current employees or those that have resigned or have been terminated. Under immigration law, you are required to keep your I-9 forms for 1 year or 3 years from the time that the employee resigns or is terminated, whichever is later. This is very important, as we often see that these forms have not been kept for the required time. Also, it is important to have a tickler system where an employee has provided documents which show work authorization, but that work authorization expires at a certain time. There should be a tickler system that will warn you that somebody's work authorization is about to expire. Often we find that people have been working for years on end, way past their employment authorization date. This can have severe fines, criminal sanctions, and other penalties for the employer if they continue to employ somebody who is working with an expired work authorization document. If somebody is working with an expired work authorization document and they do timely provide you with proper work authorization, that should be completed in the re-verification part of the I-9 form. Also, if you do subsequently discover that there is an error in an I-9 form, do not white out that error. Rather, mark out the error in a different colored pen and sign and date it with an initial or a full signature evidencing the corrected documents, but do not white out documents. Finally, if you are audited by the USCIS, you really have to have a consistent policy in place of how to respond to an audit. You are only usually given 72 hours to respond, so that is not a lot of time. You should have that in place beforehand of how you're going to respond, who the employee is in charge of I-9 verification, who will be in charge if there is an audit, and then you should also yearly go through your I-9s to make sure that they comply with law. Either have your outside or in-house counsel go through them with you to make sure that everything is above board. It may cost you some money each year, but it definitely will cost you significantly less than being fined or receiving criminal penalties from USCIS. If you have questions regarding your I-9 policy, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.